You know who I am, George Lemos. But I'm asking the question which I could ask privately so that you can give a public answer.
Yeah.
Two questions, actually. The first, you made the point about foreign direct investment.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that the authorities in Turkey would attribute the fall in foreign direct investment to problems with the accession process or to the general flight to quality that has affected all emerging markets in the last 9 months?
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's the second, obviously they won't think of it as a European problem.
Mm-hmm.
The second question relates to the security points that you made. I mean, has focused on the this nice idea that Greeks and Turks could be hospitably entertained in the British sovereign bases.
Mm-hmm.
But it seemed to me that the first thing that you mentioned seems the most implausible of all, that Britain, which I think would probably weight Cyprus as a little tail against the enormous dog of a European security structure. I mean, is it remotely plausible that the one country which has most to contribute is the country that has the greatest reservations about a non-NATO security structure that would operate by the European
It's a
Union?
fair enough question. Okay, let's start with the first one. I think that it is entirely reasonable that the Turkish authorities, like anybody watching a dramatic change in economic conditions, would be putting forward, and rightly so, alternative explanations for the dramatic decline in foreign direct investment. Okay. But I don't think there is anybody in Turkey who will doubt that part of it is that the country has got into a political crisis. After all, this political crisis is fairly recent, and there is no doubt that it will, in the long term, have an effect. I mean, there is nothing like not knowing who the ministers you are having to deal with to create worries in a potential investor, particularly in a country which has not exactly got the most efficient civil service in Europe. However, I'm quite prepared to accept your implied point that as of this stage, as of now, the Turkish government may not have yet had come to a firm conclusion. And as a consequence of accepting that point, I am prepared to say that if suddenly foreign direct investment were to increase dramatically in the second half of this year, they might say, no problem. But if that does not happen, it's not that foreign direct investment has totally dried up. There is a rush to quality, but that doesn't mean that there is no foreign direct investment taking place. In many countries of the world, there is foreign direct investment taking place, and there are some countries in the world which are boasting that they are not having any recession at all as a result of what has happened in the United States and all the other problems, like Brazil, to give an example. Brazil is a country in a similar stage of development with Turkey. So we will have to wait and see a little longer, but I suspect that political uncertainty will be part of the Turkish problem. I can say no more than that, because obviously it's too early. I mean, the figures that I quoted are too short term for one to draw absolutely firm conclusions, and I tended to draw firm conclusions because I was rushing. The second point that you made is also a very valid one, but it has not yet emerged that Britain will reject any form of a European Union security policy. On the contrary, quite a lot of comment has been on the lines that so long as the European Union security policy is in tandem and fits in with NATO, then it is something that can be discussed. If it is something which is going to be totally separate, then it can't be. There is going to be ample time for negotiation and need for negotiation between France and Britain on that. I would have thought that what I was saying was that part of the British interest in this situation, the reason why it should accept a European Union security architecture, is precisely in order to solve the Cyprus problem and to bring Turkey closer to the European Union. I don't think I said, but I don't think I needed to say, that a NATO solution for the security of Cyprus is inconceivable under the present leadership of the Greek Cypriot community. The Greek Cypriot community leadership comes from a party which is not just suspicious of NATO, but rather more than that.
I want to see if there are any other questions. So there's been a wide range of questions, but there are some people in the audience that normally talk much more than they have done tonight. And I was wondering whether there are any other questions. Otherwise, Costa has been going since 5 o'clock, so I'm going to, if I don't see any more questions. Oh, right, okay. You put the first question, so perhaps you can put the last. Come.
Right. In last week's Turkish Cypriot newspaper, there was an interview which you stated that the United States apparently is at the moment a little bit unpredictable insofar as, for example, its position with Cyprus. Now, if, for example, you stated if it decided to invade Iran, it may sort of change the situation that against against its view, perhaps on Cyprus or the climate on the Cyprus.
Yes, let me correct you a little bit. I don't know exactly what was in the paper. What I said in my speech last week was that one of the minor dangers, or one of the least, but still a danger we have to take into account, is if in the course of this autumn President Bush, either via Israel or directly, does something with regard to Iran, and that would mean a lot of instability in the Near East and certainly would be damaging to any prospect of a Cyprus settlement. But I also said I didn't think it was probable, but still I mentioned it.
How would that work itself out?
I don't know. I don't think anybody could possibly predict, just as nobody could predict how the Iraq invasion would work itself out. We had to live through it in order to see how it didn't work itself out, or did, as the case may be. And that's precisely why, because this present American administration has been so unsuccessful, both in its foreign and its domestic policy, I felt it necessary last week to say, you know, rationally this should not happen, but I have to take into account that it may all the same. What else can one say?
Maybe that it's closeness with the Turkish military that it's really.
I don't think that the Turkish military even, let alone any other Turk, wants the United States to do such a thing. I really don't. I think that Turkish public opinion is so suspicious of the United States and so angry with the way that the United States has behaved in Iraq and is behaving through Israel in Palestine, that I don't think there would be any sympathy in Turkey, but I may be wrong, for an Israeli, say, bombing of Iranian nuclear facilities, which is the most likely way it would happen.
And the Association of Cypriot, Greek and Turkish Affairs, Zenon Stavronidis, who is the General Secretary of the association, sent his apologies, and so I'm giving them to you. Normally we go on till 8:30, but I think this is because normally we start late. And since we're in the House of Lords, we started on time. So we still had the debate we needed. We had an excellent speech from Costa Carras. He answered all your questions, hope to your satisfaction.
I hope not evasively.
Not evasively, and he made the point that he is not a politician. He is here to give ideas. And I think the one thing that we can take from tonight, besides all the information that we've exchanged, is that we need to have more discussions like this with Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots in London on various subjects. I mean, secularism might be one, on what's happening in Cyprus, on the idea of federal zones. I mean, there are a lot of ideas that could be discussed. So we can talk to Zenon Stavronidis. Friends of Cyprus is willing to help. And thank you all for your questions and your attendance tonight. And thank you very much to Costa.